Hey guys, just so you know, I'm a little under the weather here. It's pretty hot where I am, so I'm not gonna have much to say here, but I'll go do what I can, okay? Gotta be honest with you guys, this is something whose history expands time and space itself. The Star Trek franchise has been one of the biggest staples of nerd culture for many years. Basically, it's one of the reasons that the Big Bang Theory has as much popularity as it does. The thing is, the Star Trek series first originated in the 1960s with the original series with William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelley, and James Doohan. The series became very popular for not only its use of relatable characters and everything. However, although it was canceled after four or five seasons, it did continue with several movies. Movies including Star Trek: The Motion Picture, Wrath of Khan, and several other movies. But it wasn't until 2009 that J.J. Abrams, who was only a few movies into his career, decided to take on a new project. That project will be rebooting the Star Trek franchise. With a new cast involving Chris Pine as James T. Kirk, Zachary Quinto as Spock, Zoe Saldana as Lieutenant Uhura, as well as Simon Pegg as Scotty, and definitely the now late Anton Yelchin as Chekhov, and many others joined the cast. However, he wanted to give it a new, fresh take, so he basically rewrote the storyline in a different way. And so, people anticipated Baby Breath for that movie to be good, and by all accounts, it was amazing. Not only was it a refreshing take on the franchise, but also reinvigorated the franchise containing a fresh story. The characters were still just as relatable and as classic as ever, and the new cast fit in well into the roles, especially the great chemistry between Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto. The first one did very well, and J.J. Abrams immediately signed on for another film, in which he didn't write the script, but he stayed on as director and main producer. The rest of the cast came back, and in the second film, they got a big addition under the guise of Benedict Cumberbatch as the villain, Khan. Although the film was well received by critics and it was immensely successful, maybe some fans have kind of thrashed the film for being way too similar to the second original Star Trek movie, Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan, especially for its similarities. However, all the similarities aside, people really liked the film and they couldn't wait for a third film to come. But when the third film came around, a lot of curveballs were thrown. Not only did J.J. Abrams lead that film to both produce and direct Star Wars: The Force Awakens, which turned out to rule all the last few weeks of 2015 when it came out, and also was the #1 movie of all time of that year. The new director to replace him was Roberto Orci, who, along with his former producing and writing partner Alex Kurtzman, had written the first two films along with lost screenwriter Damon Lindelof, on which J.J. Abrams was a producer. However, since their partnership disbanded, but they still had a production company, KO Productions, they still Roberto Orci was bound to direct and write the new film, but he dropped out. Soon after he dropped out of the film, however, Simon Pegg took up script duties, did rewrite of his script, and took up the entire script duties, along with his screenwriting partner, Doug Jung. And as for the director, they immediately brought on Fast and Furious franchise director Justin Lin, who directed some of the best films in the franchise, such as Fast and Furious 5 and Fast and Furious 6. With the new film in that series being taken over by James Wan, and in the upcoming 8th film done by Straight Outta Compton director F. Gary Gray. Thus, people were really excited for this film, especially with the new cast members for this one, including Sofia Boutella, who you want to remember as Giselle, Samuel L. Jackson's Blade henchman from Kingsman: The Secret Service, which is one of my favorite films of last year. Not to mention Idris Elba, who is absolutely having a killer year of 2015 with incredible roles in Zootopia and killing it as Shere Khan from The Jungle Book. He was signed on to play the villain, Crawl. So, I went to the theater despite the hot heat wave around my town, and I went to Star Trek Beyond. What did we get with it? Well, guys, Honest to God, I haven't seen the previous two Star Trek films directed by J.J. Abrams, so it's gonna be hard. So it might be hard to compare everything those two movies to this one. But on another level, Star Trek Beyond was amazing. Not only is this a great third film in the series, was by far with other third films in franchises like X-Men: The Last Stand, or even the third Terminator film. Those films kind of went downhill, obviously in a bad way. However, despite J.J. Abrams' absence from this film, Justin Lin does do a good job of filling the void, albeit not as good. So yeah, this is a really great film. The characters are just as good as ever, and well, let's get to the film, shall we? The first things first, we need to talk about one of the biggest mishaps biggest slip-ups people might have with this film, and that would be the direction. Now, obviously, people can definitely notice J.J. Abrams' absence of deft touch is missing from this film, and that's easy to see because one of J.J. Abrams' most distinctive trademarks is the flare lens you would see in one of his films. I don't have the equipment to point it out to you, but if you watch any of his films, you'll see what I mean. And also, he has a much more deft of touch when it comes to directing the scenes, especially when it comes to like the editing process, and especially in directing the action sequences in general. Justin Lin is actually a good action director on his own, especially when it comes to his work with the Fast and Furious franchise. And in this film, Justin Lin does an amazing job here. I may not have seen all the Fast and Furious films he's directed, although he's only directed 2 of them. Let's not forget. But he does do an excellent job with this film. The only 2 hang-ups I have about the direction is that it's not as visceral as J.J. Abrams does it. J.J. Abrams kind of cranks the volume up a little bit to make the action sequences and much of the scenes much more visceral and hard hitting. And although Justin Lin doesn't have the same level of volume that Abrams brings to the table, he does direct the sequences well enough, and he gets some amazing cinematography. Every action scene is so well shot. I have to give him props there, especially one scene that could easily rival the Burj Khalifa scene in Mission Impossible 6, hands down. But now let's get on to what people obviously want me to talk about: the characters. Now, one thing we need to, especially the writing. Now, I was actually really excited because of the script, because I knew it'd be good, because for this one, the script has been taken over by Simon Pegg, who you want to remember for being the screenwriter and director of one of my favorite British comedies, The World's End, starring him and his comedy partner, Nick Frost. And I definitely had a lot of confidence that even if the script wouldn't be as good as the ones made by Alex Kurtzman, Roberto Orci, and especially Damon Lindelof, what he did with Star Trek Into Darkness, I definitely knew this would be fantastic in terms of its humor, because Simon Pegg said when he was writing the script, he wanted to throw it back to the original series as much as he could, while still making this film its own thing. Especially considering that this film, when it came out this week, would be in the same week of the Star Trek's 50th anniversary. Not many of its stars are still alive today, and I'll get to what I mean in a moment. But I definitely say Simon Pegg, he did an amazing job with the writing. There was so much humor in this. I laughed a lot, and Simon Pegg, the writing may match up to the gut-busting moments of The World's End, but Simon Pegg's writing is excellent. I can't wait to see what he does next, because props to you, man. Props. Now on to the characters, and this is what I can't wait to talk about. Now, if you watch the Star Trek series, or even if you don't, you should be aware of what the characters are like. And if you watch the first 2 films, you definitely see the relationships develop between the characters. Like the first 2 films, you basically get the character development between Kirk and Spock, given that they're mainly the central friendship / dynamic of the entire series. But in this one, we get something a little bit different. Yeah, sure, we get Kirk and Spock back, make no mistake. But this time we get to see Spock kind of have some chemistry with Bones, and needless to say, Kirk and Spock are just as great as ever. And Zachary Quinto and Chris Pine, those guys light up the screen. They're funny. They have good interplay between each other. They're charismatic. They're fun. They're basically everything that the original characters were, and they still are today. And that's something that anybody who takes on the Star Trek series, that's something they need to understand. the characters, because even if the best Star Trek even when the Star Trek films made by William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy themselves, even when they're at their worst, they could at least say that the characters were at least the same as what they were. They were still likable and they were still fun, and they brought in this film, and all of them just hit the high notes real good. Kirk, Spock, Bones, Carl Urban, he, Zachary Quinto, those guys were amazing together. I love the development of their relationship together. I like how the banter, the humor was excellent. They were really funny, I'm gonna say this. But the bright spot in this entire film, guys, there are actually three bright spots in this film that we need to get to right now. By the way, Zoe Saldana, she was good as Uhura. First bright spot. Idris Elba as Krall. Oh, you are a badass. That guy is definitely a villain. He definitely is a villain. I mean, Idris Elba, he's actually done 2 villain roles this year. He's done Krall in this film, and he especially knocked it out of the park as Shere Khan in the Jungle Book, which, by the way, you guys need to see. I recommend it. Go see it, please. And especially, and he didn't really play a villain role in Zootopia, but he definitely was a cool character. But in this one, again, he's a badass. He's a badass villain. He's menacing. He's not afraid to get gritty and nasty. But one thing I always look for in villains is for having them to have an emotional core. And Idris Elba, he's got that. Now, one of the things people may have with this film, and I had a little bit as well, is that you don't really get behind him throughout the majority of the film. Like the second and especially the first act, he kind of a bit in the dark about what's going on with him, like why he wants to do what he's doing. And by the time the third act comes around, you realize, yeah, now I got you, man. I got you. I understand that. I don't command what you're doing, but I can see where you're coming from, man. I feel for you. I hear you. And that, my friends, is great villain writing. Because that's the way a great villain needs to be. He's got to be sympathetic. People need to care something for him. Otherwise, there's what reason do you have to even call him enjoyable if there's nothing that makes him human? And that is great villain writing. Nice job, Simon Pegg. And second bright spot in this film, Simon Pegg as Scotty. That guy is by far one of the best actors in this film, hands down. This guy, not only is this guy a brilliant actor, especially in comedy, seriously, watch him in The World's End. That guy will have you having rolling your seats for just about everything he's saying. And honestly, this film showcases his acting range. He's funny. He's dramatic. He has some urgency to his character. He has great interplay with the final bright spot in this film, which I'll get to. And this guy, and Simon Pegg, I love you, man. I love you, Simon Pegg. I can't wait to see what you've got coming up, because you, man, you're comedy gold, my friend. Comedy gold. But enough dancing around the bush here. Let's get to this movie's brightest spot. Sofia Boutella as Jayla. In my opinion, she is by far the best character to ever come in Star Trek since Khan from the last film. She is a badass. This girl is just great. She kicks a lot of butt. She's amazing. She's got great interplay. Sofia Boutella is excellent playing her. There's a lot to her you can feel for, and it's just Simon Pegg. You done it again. There's a lot you can really get behind her in this film. Usually, some of the female characters are kind of hard to get behind, but not Jayla. She holds her own in this film. She has great interplay between the Enterprise cast, and honestly, there's not much more I can say about it. If you guys know what I mean, check it out. Honestly, you won't regret. And one final thing I want to touch on this film is the throwbacks to the original film. Now there are some things that definitely kind of that people are kind of worried about, because as we've seen from the Ghostbusters film, which I tried to review but I lost the footage. However, it's basically that they wanted to throw some callbacks to the original franchise, but unfortunately they didn't know how it would pan out. But I gotta say, every little tribute they did, perfect. It was understated enough the people couldn't understand what was going on. Yeah, it wasn't thrown in their faces. And and definitely was a fitting tribute to Leonard Nimoy, who was Spock Prime in his previous two films, and especially Anton Yelchin. That guy was great as Chekhov in the previous three films. He will be missed greatly. I'm so glad that J.J. Abrams chose not to recast him for the next film. Anton Yelchin, you were gone too soon. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, buddy. Rest in peace, comrade. Guys, in the end, man, I do wish that I had more to say about this film, but in the end, what's there more to say? All they need to do with the Star Trek film is basically get it right, get the story right, get the characters right, have the actors get it right, and this film accomplished it all. If I were to nitpick, though, I did say that crawl is a bit hard to understand in the first two acts. But by the third act, it's basically you understand what's going on with him. But it's a good thing. It says you have to be patient. Just be patient. Wait a bit. And there we have it. Also, from another nitpick, the first act can be a bit slow at points, but you can definitely see the development going on there, so it's not that bad at all. Overall, guys, well, I'll definitely say this film doesn't match up with J.J. Abrams' take on the original film. Like I said, his deft touch definitely keeps the film from reaching its full potential. It's not the immediate smash as it was for the first film, and especially with Star Trek Into Darkness, and although Idris Elba is great as Crawl, he doesn't reach the heights that Benedict Cumberbatch reached with Khan. But in other words, I love this film. You guys need to see it. So that's why I'm giving this film an 8.5 out of 10, and a surefire recommend you go see it. Folks, Star Trek has been known for going where no human has gone before. And this film, it definitely reaches. While it may reach heights that no one's gone before, the story has reached some places that no Star Trek film has gone before. So fasten your seatbelts, grab hold of something, and get ready for your journey into a galaxy in Hollywood, far, far away. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. So I'm a little under the weather here. That's why, hence the location change. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching. If you guys like what you saw, comment down below, like this video, and especially pass it along to your friends. I will have a new feature come up for my next video, so keep an eye out for that. Also, check out Facebook and Twitter and everything else, and I have more I plan to bring to this channel, so stay tuned for that. Until then, my name is Ross Butler. You're watching M&M Weekly. I'll see you soon, and stay cool this summer.